Good, good, good. Thank you all. It's really good that we got the applause out of the way because we're running late. So let's not do that at the end. This is the only thing I'm going to read from my phone because I want to do it word for word and see who recognizes this. So I'm Frank van Puffelen, and welcome to my imagination. Over the last 2 years, I've kept an incredible secret. I've been working on secret projects without telling anyone. And it's been so difficult to keep this quiet, and I can now finally share the truth with all of you. I got seriously into playing bingo games. I know, it sounds crazy, right? Like, who would have thought that? But I love playing bingo games. I don't just play any bingo games, I played all of the bingo games. I went online and I found all of them. But, right, it was online bingo games because COVID, right? Then a few months ago, I was allowed out of the house again, and I got to meet people. And I met Eric. And would you imagine it? Eric shares my passion for bingo games. So every day in the Google office, we've been sitting and chatting about everything about bingo. And it turns out that there's all these bingo strategies, right, that the grandmasters of bingo use. There's all these offhanded tactics that you see them use. And then there's, especially if you go to tournament play, you can see that they're actually like trying to cheat all the time. But you only see it in the close-up takes. Bingo, my passion, Eric's passion. I really had to think there. A few months ago, actually a few weeks ago, we decided that we want to get into that big bingo business that you hear about. NFT, Web3, all way in the past. Bingo is the next future, believe me. We're all going to do bingo web. And we decided that we want to start building a bingo app. And we have a cunning plan for today. Because we are going to build a bingo app that exists of a player app that you all get to use. And hey there, live stream, you also get to play with us. Is the live stream working? Does anyone know? Yes. Yeah, otherwise it would look weird, right, if I waved at them. Because I never wave at people who are not there. And we're going to build a host app where we actually host the bingo game. We're going to learn about Firebase. And one more thing. Right, we're going to play a bingo game for prizes. Who knows Dash? Yeah, who has a Dash plushie, by the way? Yeah, most of you, yeah. Who knows who Sparky is? Yeah, who has a Sparky plushie? Yeah, probably only one hand goes up here, right? That's me. No. We're going to hand up. You do?
You gave me one.
Wait, that's to hand out as a prize, isn't it?
Well, yeah. You gave me one earlier.
True, okay. So we brought some plushies, and you can win those by playing bingo. And remember, no cheating, because we're going to be looking out for that. Actually, I sort of, since I got into bingo, I assume everyone is a bingo fanatic like I am. But who is like a really passionate bingo player? You were right, Eric. Who knows like the basic rules of bingo? Yeah, I was afraid of that. Eric, can you explain how to bingo?
Yeah, if I can have this mic here.
You can. Get there.
All right. So bingo is a pretty simple game. Generally played in a hall just like this, with 1 to 2 people in front, just like this, and then an audience. But weirdly, you generally play alone. It's strange, but. So basically you have cards, 3 to 5, I don't know, however many the host gives you, and they all have a grid on it with 24 numbers really, because one of the numbers, it's a 5x5 grid, one of the numbers is a free spot. All the numbers are between 1 and 75, and as the host calls random numbers between 1 and 75, if they're on your board, you stamp them, and if you get 5 in a row, either horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, then you call bingo, and you yell it really loudly, and if you do it first, then you win. It's that simple, yeah, which is why we like it.
Yeah, we do like it. I think I'm doing it a bit, but I'm not sure. We actually pass around a lot normally. Eric is our official bingo master. He's really good at this. He knows all of the rules, and actually corrected me a few times on not playing bingo properly. What did I know? Okay, Eric. I was also surprised when one day I show up in the office and it turns out you have built an entire bingo player app. Can you tell us a bit more about how that works?
Yep. Yeah, so I built the app beforehand that you all will be using that represents the player side of the equation. So imagine you walk into a bingo hall and you walk up to the host and say, I want to play bingo. They hand you cards, you go sit down, you stamp numbers. So that's what this app represents. It's 3 screens. The first screen, just a title screen, it says Bingo 3000 because that's how futuristic our bingo game is. It doesn't really do anything else. And then the next screen is the lobby screen. So this is kind of represents when you walk up to the host and ask for the cards. And that's pretty much it. And then the last screen is the bingo screen itself. So it's not shown in this GIF or GIF. I apologize. I truly don't know which one is right, but it's not shown in this GIF. But you can swipe left and right, so there's multiple cards. But yeah, you just stamp numbers, and when you have 5, you can claim bingo. And just because you can claim it doesn't mean you actually have it, so keep that in mind later when we're playing. And I think that's it for the app.
Looks like a pretty good app, right? Honestly, it's bingo. It's not that hard. Let's see. So we're going to be building an app. Apparently, the player app is almost done. We still are going to build the host app. In fact, we're going to take about 10 steps. This is all. It's not that hard. We're going to do it together. Don't worry. Fair warning, I'm not going to live code anything. Eric is also not. I would normally say that he would do it, but because the code was a bit much, we have the code on the slides. We are going to live run it. I'll show you in a moment. So we're going to start at step 1, but let's actually first look at the bingo app. So you saw the app, right? It's a Flutter app. You would expect that. That means that it has state, right? And whenever the state changes, we update the UI. And some of that state is very local to each device, right? Like the numbers that you've put a stamp on, right? Those are very specific to your device. But some of the other things are actually shared between all the players. But that's what makes it a multiplayer game, right? So something like the current game, it's really important that once we start playing bingo here later, that we're all looking at the same game, because otherwise it's going to be really weird, right? So we need to take that value and store it somewhere. So we took it and we're storing it in the database. And that is great. So like, we've probably all done 3-tier architecture, right? Where we put up a server between the database and the clients. And that's where we then write all the logic of our bingo game, right? So you get to join the game, you get your cards, you get to claim bingo, right? All the things we would normally put on the server. And then I was thinking is like, yeah, I actually don't like writing server-side code. So let's take away the server. That is great, right? I only have to write Flutter code. This is awesome. Like, I'm a FlutterVikings, I get to write Dart. And also it's great because it means I get to put the database closer to the clients, which is actually really helpful. And right, there's a problem there, because who's now going to give you your cards? Right, I can't let you create your own cards because, okay. I know in here everyone is going to be like honest and not cheat, but right, once we release this to the public, there's going to be people who want to cheat. So we need some kind of host that generates those bingo cards and that checks whether when you claim bingo, you actually got it. So we're going to build a Flutter app for that. And that's going to be our host. Anyone who's like never done this before is now thinking, it's like, wait, you're letting the client talk directly to the database? And it's like, yes, I am. Yeah, like nothing can go wrong with that. No, it's all great. And it's all great because we've actually secured the database. Right, so we don't put up an entire server, but we have a specific language that allows us to say what you're allowed to do and not on the database. And that's how we secure things. When I say we, that's Firebase. And you sort of saw this coming because I'm wearing this bright yellow shirt, right? So we knew that Firebase was going to be a thing in our talk. And who used Firebase before? Darn, so not too many new people, which is like great because it means I can skip through things faster. But I also like all the magic that you see from Firebase. Firebase is about 20 products. This is 18 because the slide is more than 2 months old and we added products since then. But we're not going to look at all of them. But what they all have in common is that they help you build better apps. We used to say build extraordinary apps, but as you can see, I have problems pronouncing that word, so now it's build better apps. And we do that by providing you with backend services that you can use directly from within your Flutter code. And we're going to be mostly looking at Cloud Firestore today. Cloud Firestore is an online database. We're going to be using that to store, guess what, the current game ID and all the other state that we need to share. Who's used Firestore before? Good, thank you. Firestore is a document database, and that means that we store the information in documents. So instead of, if you've used a relational database, it's a table with rows, we use a document instead of a row. And in a document, we have fields, and for each field, we have a value, right? It's fairly simple. So we're going to be using that. Instead of a table, we have something called a collection. So we have collections of documents, and then under each document in a collection, you can have more collections. So we can build a hierarchy like that. That's what we're going to be using. Things get a lot clearer if we look at our actual data model for today. Let me think. So we saw the player app, and we saw that we got to the lobby, then we said start game, and then we saw a game. What game do we show there, right? Well, Eric needs something to look at. So we're going to create a collection of games, and in that collection, we're going to create a document for each game that we start. So our host is going to have a feature where it can start a new game, and what then happens is that the host writes one of these documents. You can see that each document has a name, which here looks very readable, but once we get to the real game, it's not. And it has a timestamp of when it was created. That's all. But we still need to know which is the current game. So for that, we create a collection called what I call globals. And in there, we create a single document called Bootstrap. These are like hard-coded names. And in there, we have a single field called current game. And you see that that is the third game. So guess what? That's apparently the current game that we have going. Sounds simple, right? What could possibly go wrong? We have 4 things that we need to do. This is not a mistake in the slides. It's a reminder that I need to switch to another screen. This is going to be fun. Can you hold this for a moment? Mostly this one. And then next to me, yeah. There we are. This is all good. I did not want to show you the code before. That's horrible. Who's used a browser before? This is a browser. OK. No, so Firebase is an online a set of online services. So let's go to, I think I actually created a shortcut, to firebase.google.com. I actually think I should be OK. Thank you. So this is the Firebase homepage. I'm signed into Firebase. You can see my face here, tiny at the top. But I'm going to go to the Firebase console. So Firebase is a set of online services, and you need to be like in the browser to be able to like use them. So I see here my list of Firebase projects. You can see that I have quite some projects. I actually zoomed in, so you don't see too many, but I have a lot. And I have something called NanoChat. If you've been to one of my other talks, I probably built a NanoChat because I like building small chat apps. I have something called Stack Overflow. Do we have any people on Stack Overflow? Did you ever read a Firebase answer? You're welcome. And we have something called Bingo 3000. That is the project that we're going to be using today. So this project has all the backend services that I showed earlier, but now configured for our Bingo app. So on the left, you see that we have 3 of them highlighted, but we have a lot more. Luckily, we don't need those more. We are only going to use those 3 for now. And one of those is the Firestore database, which is the database that I promised we'd be using today. And this is sort of, can somebody do a sad trombone? This is like the most sad database ever. It's completely empty. And I'm really showing you the code when I shouldn't be, by the way. Let's do it like this. So we're going to be populating this database, but to do that, we need to make sure that our Flutter app can find the database on the server, right? Because there's like millions of Firebase projects, and it needs to find just the right one. So we've told this project already about the Firebase apps that we're using. So at the top here, you see that there are 5 apps. Honestly, most of them are not in use. We're using 2 today. One of them is the web app that you're going to be using in a bit. So there's a Vikings Bingo web app, and then there's an Android application. Honestly, it was an iOS application initially, but then I had problems with my Xcode, so it's now an Android application. I'm very happy that Flutter is cross-platform. I'm not always happy keeping them all working. OK, I'm not going to show you much of this code. I just wanted to show you that this is really the app that's running. I quickly need to check. There's no error messages. I've been having internet issues today. OK, so this is the code, but we're going to look at that on slides. What we are going to be using is the emulator that we have here. So this one is actually really connected to this project, and that's what we're going to be using today. I want to switch back to the database. I want to switch back to the slides for a moment. Quickly checking all 4 to-dos. We've looked at the Firebase project the project in the Firebase console. We've seen an empty database. We've seen that I've connected the apps, and we've seen VS Code. It's as close as we get to live coding. The rest of the code is going to be on slides because then I could zoom better. Also, some of it got a bit tricky yesterday. This is what, OK, aside from all the white space, this is probably what your main looks like in a Flutter app, right? It's like you're running your app. That's about it. Then you go to Firebase, and Firebase tells you to add this to it, right? It's like, and it's wonderful, because if you've ever done any server-side development, you're like, why are you sharing all those values with people? And it's not just that bad. This is the real values that we're using for a project today. Not kidding. Take pictures, start hacking, fun. So right, this is not what you're used to sharing, but for Firebase, this is actually what you need to share, because that's the only way that you can find the project on the server. And OK, I admit that we should not have called one of them API key. That's not necessarily the best name to give it, because that's what we're used to not sharing. But other things here, a project ID, you typically wouldn't like be worried about sharing, right? It's the name API key. That's unfortunately also the first one in there that is upsetting for us. But there's no security risk here. That, believe me, I wouldn't be showing it otherwise. OK, so This connects our code to the project on the server. You probably didn't pay close attention, but this is what the top of the host app looks like. And the host app is not pretty because the host app, well, okay, once we release this software, only the hosts are going to see it, and they care more about functionality. At least that's what I've been telling myself. Okay, so we're going to build this UI, and we're going to start a new game. This is about how far my UI skills go. So we have a constant text label. I'm really good at those, it turns out. Then we show a variable from the state, and we have a button where we can click on pressed, and then we get start new game. So this is what starting a new game looks like. And this is where, for me, it gets most interesting, because this connects to Firebase. Remember, we're using Firestore? So we get an instance of Firestore. Honestly, it's just an object that allows us to talk to Firestore. It's already configured because we called initialize app earlier. Now we need to do two things. Remember, we need to write a document to the games collection. And then we need to write the ID of that document to the global bootstrap. So let's do that. So this is how we write a document to the games collection. You can see, right, db.collectiongames.add. It's fairly self-explanatory, I would say. And then we write the timestamp, just because I needed some value in there. It looked a bit weird, empty. Then we go to the global bootstrap document, and we write the current game in there. That's it. If you've never done Firestore, this is really all it takes. I love my animations, except that they're taking time. Okay, let's actually use this. That's probably way better. Look at that. Okay, so I said this was live. In fact, this button is connected to the project we see on the right. Let's get rid of some of that distracting code in between, like this. So if we start a new game, you can see that we get a less readable ID. You can also see that nothing happened here. I swear, the demo gods are not always with us. Let's refresh. Okay, good. Okay, we now have two collections in the database. That's a good thing. We have a games collection with, surprise, the same ID that we see here. We have a globals collection with a bootstrap document with the same ID there. That's interesting. Let me try starting a new game. Okay, this is better. This is what I know about Firebase. Good. So it turns out that we have a bug in the console, and I had to reload it to get the data. At Firebase, we consider that a bug. Most databases actually consider that normal, right? If you want to get data, you have to do a request and you get the data. Then if you want to check if there's more data, you do another request to get more data. With Firebase, we don't like that one bit. It's like we like listening to data. We like streams in Flutter parlance. So when I start a new game, I get a new game, and the console updates straight away. Now guess what? This console is nothing special to us. It just uses one of the Firebase APIs. So our Flutter code gets the same treatment. It gets streams of data. Quickly want to show you that if it's not a new document, and I start a new game, that you can see that it shows in yellow. So we're getting the same data there. Eric, I think I'm done for the moment, right? We create a new game, and now it's up to you to show that in the client.
Yes, so we've created a game, and so now we need to talk about how the player app is going to find and join that game. You can next slide, please. So, as Puff was just saying, Firestore is the most interesting thing about Firestore, in my opinion, the thing that I love it, and I think a lot of Flutter developers like about it, is that the data works with streams and it's real time. So the yellow lines here in this fancy animation are just one client updates Firestore, and then immediately Firestore tells every other client listening to those streams, I suppose. But anyways, so getting back to finding the game, so that all pretty much happens on this screen. When you launch the app, we find the game and kind of set you up to be able to join it. And the code to do this, it turns out, is pretty easy. So the first 3 lines or so of this code are what you're going to see over and over and over if you're writing Firestore code in Dart. It just says, hey, Firestore, give me the data at this exact path in the database. In this case, it is global slash bootstrap, and then .snapshots is how you ask for it as a stream, and then we just map over it, which that's actually just Dart code, and then we just get the data we want out of that and turn it into something we like, which is just a string in this case. So it's pretty simple. That happens when you launch the app. You start listening for the game ID stream. So as soon as a game ID is added, then you are notified about it. And you can next slide, please. And so that's how we find the current game from the global document, but we also need to tell the host that we want to join the game. This is kind of like inside of a bingo hall, you walk in and you say, hello, I would like to join a game. You don't say, hello, the current game is. So to solve that, we then the player, this is one of the only times the player will write to the database. They write underneath the game document, they will write a player document, which will have this exact information. This is actually what is in our database. A UID, which would obviously not be that clear, and then a name, which is generated by the Dart code, and the status. And the status is pretty much the way that the two apps will communicate with each other. So if I say I'm in the lobby, then the host knows, okay, I have a player here, and just on, a lot of things like that. And so for this, the code is actually turns out very similar. So so join the screen in the join the game in the lobby screen. Once again, again, you're going to do this all the time. You just say, Firestore, give me a reference to this exact place in the database, and then you do whatever you want to do. In this case, we are updating the status. We use set here, which will update or write depending on if it exists, and with the name, and in this case, waiting for cards, which is how you tell the host that you are wanting to play. And the last thing in this that is interesting is that we are using this UID. And as we said, we want this to be secure, despite the fact that there's no server, you don't have to log in or anything. And so to get this UID, we are using this special function from Firebase auth. So this is another Firebase product that is probably the most used by all Flutter developers. And this method's called sign in anonymously. And so when you launch the app, it will be secure, we'll know you're you, but you don't have to log in or anything. That would be, seems like it'd be a slog during a live event to have to everyone, okay, go download the app and sign in, register. But other than that, I don't really know what this does. I'm a Flutter developer, and so I'm not a Firebase expert, so I just read the docs that told me to put this line in, but Puff probably knows.
I probably do. I like it. This is actually how a lot of people use Firebase authentication, though. Right? It's a single line of code in this case that signs you in. But I didn't ask you for a username. I didn't ask you for a password. So this is interesting. Firebase authentication is the second product. And if you remember, right, we have a database that you can write to directly from your Flutter app. We have an authentication solution that does secure serverless sign-in. Whoever spun up an OAuth server? It's a bit fewer. Like, we're going to have a support group meeting outside of here after this is done, just so you know, so that we can all hang out, because this is no fun, right? Spinning up OAuth servers. Like, if you do think it's fun, we have a great team that's always looking for more people. But with Firebase, you can do it with just writing one line of Flutter code. Firebase authentication. We have many sign-in providers, right? The most common ones you're going to see are email passwords, Google sign-in, Facebook sign-in, Twitter sign-in, all the things, right? Apple, sign-in with Apple, excuse me, should always mention that one. So you can use these. But today we are just using anonymous sign-in, which is a bit weird for most people. But if you look at the game that we're going to play, right, it's like when you join in the bingo hall, the host doesn't ask you for your name, right? They just give you some cards, and they mostly just want to know that you are going to use those cards, right? And that's what we want in our app also. I don't really need to know your name to allow you to play, but I do want to make sure that you are you. So I always say that using anonymous authentication is a bit like Dr. Seuss. Who knows Dr. Seuss? It's always like mostly Americans, but I don't know who you are, but I know that you are you. Right? That's really important. What this means is that when you first run the app, you run that one line of code that Eric showed. Where are we? There. And that generates a user ID for you. That user ID is unique across all players, and it's persisted on your device. So if you reload the app, you get the same user ID. And that's great, because I don't know how it is for you, but my app sometimes crashes. Then when I reload it, it picks up the same user ID. So that's good, because it means that if somewhere during the gameplay I need to reload, I still have the same bingo cards. That's good news. It also means that somebody else who's running the app cannot get your user ID. This is generated on our servers, so you all get your same user ID. This is really important, because that's how we're going to secure access. Remember, we have a database, right? And I told you that you could all write to it from your client device. But I want to make sure you can only do things that fit with my gameplay. So I came up with these security rules, right? And the security rules are going to say that only the host can create bingo cards. But what we did so far, right, is every player can write their own document. It's like, so we clearly have two types of users here, right? We have the hosts and we have players. And the players can do a very small subset of actions, and the hosts can do more things. Somehow there was an ordering problem in my slides. Okay, let's first look at the security rules for the player. So these are real security rules. I'm not going to explain too much about them, but this is all that it takes to secure access to the document structure. I'm showing you these because I don't think they are a secret. But this allows you to, it allows the player to read, well, it allows everyone to read cards, it allows player to rewrite their own document, it allows players to read cards. It does not allow the player to write cards. That's reserved for, wow, the host. So I have a few extra rules here that says the host is allowed to do more. That value there is the user ID of the host. I literally copy it out of my emulator. Like, it works. And I say the host is allowed to do whatever they want in the entire database. I trust my code to work. We discovered yesterday that we probably should not, by the way, because I had it off by one error. But that was actually this morning, not even yesterday. But I do, in general, trust that code to do a lot more. OK. We did start new game. Aaron, you made us join the game, so we're ready to show like the number of players in the game. Code. Right. I have a static label. That's easy again. Remember, I am really good at static text labels. I'm also not too bad with stream builders because they do all the hard work for me. Who likes stream builders? Good, yeah. Like, this is easier, right? I'm not asking about your favorite state management package. I'm just using stream builder. The stream builder hides the asynchronous behavior of a stream and the fact that it gets multiple events. But so here we start a stream builder, and the stream comes from Firestore, and it's games, game ID, players. If you remember, that's what Eric was writing to. So this is where the players join. Now we're listening for the snapshots on that, and as soon as this renders in the UI, we get the current players for the game, which is probably going to be no players, right, at that moment. But whenever a new player joins, or leaves the game, which is not a feature that we have, but right, we get called again with then the snapshot of all the documents in that game. So we get an async snapshot, which is a Dart class, and the data in there is a query snapshot, which is a Firestore class. And the query snapshot is just a list of documents. So what I do is I take the size of the list of documents, and I show it in a text field. Remember, I'm really good at text fields. Okay. Two more things we need to do. We need to handle when there is an error. For example, if I'm trying to read something that I don't have access to, I need to show that error. Makes debugging a lot easier. And it's asynchronous, so loading might be going on, in which case I show a progress indicator. That's all. This shows us the player count. Let's actually see if we have a player count. Can you swipe to the right? Other right? There we go. Always happens. Look at that. We have 3 players and 3 cards, which is not the number I expect, but it's all good. So that number is live. We can also see the player documents in the database. Do you want to show them? Look at that, we have 4 players. Somebody joined, awesome. Somebody guessed the URL. Wasn't that hard, but still, I'm impressed. Let's go back to the slides and look at the code for this. Now let's look at the data model. Now I need to give you some cards. Remember, we're doing the thing that happens in the bingo hall. You come in, you say, hello everyone. If you're nice, you say hello everyone, right? Everyone is a bit like, okay, hello everyone. Hello. Good, thank you, you're all still here. Okay. The live stream is really quiet. Are you sure they're there, Scott? No idea. Okay, I'm going to assume they're there. Hi, everyone! So quiet. Okay, I need to give you some cards when you join the game, remember? So we're going to do that next. Data model again. Remember, global bootstrap, games documents, players collection, player documents. Let's make some space for more collections and more documents. So we're going to generate a collection of cards for each player. And in that, guess what? We're going to create a document for every card for that player. So in most bingo halls, you don't get one card, right? You get multiple cards, and you see people frantically looking for the number on all the cards. We're going to do the same. So apparently, we get 3 cards here. And each card, again, has a document name, and guess what? A list of 24 numbers, which are the numbers that we're going to show on the card. Codes. I like codes. I don't have a button in the UI for generating cards for you, right? Because the client tells me, it's like, I want to get cards. I'm like, yeah, what do I do? Now, have a button that says, sure, give cards to the waiting player. It's a bit weird, right? So what we actually do is I forgot to include the init state, But in my init state, we are creating a stream for the players for the current game. So you see games, game ID, players, and we get snapshots again. By now, that's our best friend, right? Snapshots gives us a stream of the documents in that collection. And then we listen to that snapshot. So we're not using a stream builder here, but we're listening to it, which allows us to write code that runs as long as the screen is active. And this screen is active for the entire runtime of my game. We get a list of documents in there, and we're going to loop over the documents. So this is one document for each player. We get the player ID and the data for that player, and then we check if they're waiting for cards. And if they're waiting for cards, we're going to generate cards for them. Everyone with me? Bingo games are not that hard, right? It's amazing how great a game it is for the simple rules. Okay, let's generate some cards here. Making the code a bit smaller. So here we're going to generate the cards for the player. And we need the game ID and the player ID for that. And then we generate a random number. Who likes random numbers? Yeah, anyone who has never had to do deterministic gameplay, by the way, just so you know. Like Craig, ask Craig about randomness. He loves it. Okay, we generate a card ID. And from that card ID, we generate a set of numbers. We do it based on the random card ID, which means that they are repeatable. If I know the card ID, I know what numbers are on that card, which is handy for me. Not that important. I'm not showing the code for this. It's in the GitHub repo, by the way. You can just find it there. It's just a bunch of random numbers. What we are going to do is we're going to write the numbers to the database. We're not going to show you the numbers in the player app, but we're going to write it there. And the reason for that is, who likes stateful halt reload? It's awesome, right? Who has had their app crash? I was afraid I was one of the few people where that happens. I know that I'm definitely not the world's best developer. My app crashes all the time and all my state is gone. Well, not anymore. Right? With Firestore, I've invented the statefulest hot reload. Right? It survives like restarting the app. So I store the numbers in the database. Then when I restart the app, I load them from the database. And guess what? I'm exactly back to where we started. I need to do one more thing. I need to do this like a number of times, but I'm not showing you the loop because I think we can imagine what a loop of 3 looks like. But I need to update the player status. Because remember, whenever somebody joins, my listen method gets called. I want to make sure that I'm not constantly generating new cards for the same player, right? That would not be a good idea. So we're telling the player app that we dealt the cards. Now we're showing a card count. Eric, listening for the bingo cards. We do that in the player app. Tell me.
Yeah, so in the player app, we are, again, this is starting to feel redundant. In Firestore, you look for the exact collection you need, and you just get a stream of it, and we'll just move past that. And then what we do is whenever there's some new data, we just turn it into a class, an object that our app likes to work with. It's called bingo card. You can see it in the last line from list of values. And all it is just a way that we know how to render it, and we know how to stamp cards. You know, it's pretty straightforward, actually. Next slide, please. So this is pretty much, we turn it into this. And I think that's pretty much it for this. So if we can stamp cards, that means the last step is probably being able to draw cards, which was you.
Yeah, this is where a lot of our stress came from, because Eric and I, right, we're bingo fans. We have that big like thing where you like spin the numbers, right, and we draw one. Then we got to the airport, and yeah, I was traveling hand luggage only. Like, turns out that it doesn't fit in hand luggage. Who knew? So we're gonna draw virtual numbers. Like, feels like a way better thing for a virtual game anyway. And you can see, right, these are clearly not just static text, because the layout is getting a bit wonky. I created this, so I'm still proud of it, but I know it's not perfect. Code for this. So when you click that draw button, this is what runs. So you can see that we have a method called generate next number. You get a game ID, you get the list of existing numbers, because it's really weird if you draw the same number multiple times in a bingo game. So let's not do that. And we get a symbol count, which honestly, bingo cards are from 1 to 75. We weren't sure how many people are going to join, and it turns out that if you're playing with 2 players, we tested this earlier, it takes about 20 minutes to get a winner. So that number is variable in the code. We're not going to change it. It looks totally good now. Generating the number is much easier, right? We generate a random number between 1 and 75. This was not my off by 1 bug. And we check that it's not in there yet, so we remove duplicates. Also, it's really important that you check that you haven't gotten every number yet, because otherwise you get an endless loop, and I have no idea how I know that that could happen in my code. No. Okay, then we write it to Firestore. So we add it to the game document, we add the list of numbers. That's it. Right, I had one more thing in the UI. You might have seen, actually, can we go to the other side? That we have these weird vertical bars at the bottom. Can you draw a number, Eric? Can you, in the game, go to the game IDIP? In the database. Oh, you're in players. Can you go one up? Yeah, this is the numbers. Can you draw another number? I know. A lot of hands went up and you would use Firebase before, but when I'm at a conference where nobody has used Firebase before, I usually get a round of applause for the live updates. Thank you. You also see that we have a histogram. You're probably not really playing yet, but keep in mind, I know what cards I've given you, I know what numbers are on the cards, and I know what numbers I've drawn. So I have all the information to know if you have bingo. So what we've done is can we go back to the slide? Thank you. Is we give a score to each card. Right? Normally in bingo, you only have like yes or no, right? You either have bingo or you don't, or you either think you have bingo or you don't. We give a score. So we check every line, every row, every diagonal, and we check how many squares in there are stamped. And we count that. So that first line is 1, that second line is 2, and the third row is 3. And we have a diagonal with 3 also. We say, this card has a score of 3. We take the maximum number. Then we show that in a histogram, and that shows us the progress of the game. Because as soon as somebody hits this column, they have bingo. They might not know it yet, but they have bingo. Okay. Eric, what do people do when they have bingo? They run over to the other side.
In a real bingo hall, you yell out, which we are also going to encourage later today. And in this app, if you have bingo, you can press bingo. But very importantly, until you submit bingo, it's all in your client. So you can just put 5 numbers in a row and claim bingo. But I don't know, you might not want to, but you can. And so the code for this, turns out, is easy again. We have that same location in the database that we've seen 5 million times. And this time we just update the status to claiming bingo. But the interesting thing here is the bingo claim time. This is another way that we are kind of securing and stopping cheaters without a server. This field value server timestamp comes from the Firebase SDK. And it's interesting because it says this is a timestamp, but it's created on the server. So there's no way that you can just say date time 10 minutes ago and then when. And that's pretty much all there is to that. And what's next?
I think we have one more thing to do. I like the idea, by the way, of claiming bingo before we actually have it, right? Like, yeah, I have bingo 10 minutes from now. Right? That's not how bingo works. But right, I'm not sure how it is for you, but where I come from, if you falsely claim bingo, you have to sing a song. So please don't do that. Okay. So we check on the server whether you are claiming bingo correctly and that you are having a time, which means that we can find the winner. So we're going to play bingo. I really want to see, I counted, like there's about 70 of us. I won't start until we have 70 players, just so you know. So please grab your phone, we're all going to play bingo. We're going to play so that we can win these adorable, why are they still packed? The adorable plushies that we have here. So remember, Dash and Sparky.
Still very clean.
Yeah, the first 3 winners of the game gets to take one of these home. Okay, now you all start at your phone. I'm actually going to start a new game because we've drawn some weird numbers that I don't necessarily want to use. If you are already in a game, wow, Eric. Okay, my big fear is that the client might not be able to handle the number of people, so we'll see.
It takes a while to load, I think.
Okay, that's okay. We just started a new game. Can you all join? I see cards being generated, so that's good. If you have cards in front of you, can you raise your hands? That's good. And keep them up for a moment, please. I'm waiting for others to also get their cards. It's not too bad, not too bad. Okay. If all is well, by the way, you have cards, swipe left and right. You have 3 cards. Yay, I broke it. Oh, I'm definitely generating too many cards for all of you, yeah. This is going to be fun. Yay.
I want to say something. I forgot to say earlier that the stamping is all completely local state. So if you refresh your browser, you will probably have a hard time winning. So I wouldn't.
I'm going to draw some numbers, Eric,
All
because
right.
they keep getting cards. That is interesting. I have no idea what's wrong there. Like, I swear I had an off by 1 bug earlier today. I guess I have a race condition now. Like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure of it. Like, You saw how I write the new state. It looks like I might not be doing that correctly, which is all good. Once we start drawing numbers, we're going to be in a fun spot anyway. Okay. So I'm drawing the numbers. You can also see them at the bottom. Wow, my app is definitely not happy. Okay, the first number is 48, which, if I remember correctly, is in the G column. Oh, if you have 48, then crash it, or not crash it, sorry, stamp it. Ow, like that's horrible. If it doesn't work, we're going to raffle these off later, by the way. Don't worry. Okay. So I see here that you have the free square, right? So anyone who has a card, by definition, has like 1 as their score. So I see that some people should have the number 48.
I didn't know what was going on there.
Ah, okay. Oh yeah, and this gray square is actually lots of horizontal lines, just so you know. Okay. Number 20, which is I-20. I-20. Okay. I'm going to do them relatively slowly. Remember, you have 3 cards. Remember, as soon as you check 5 in a row, you can claim bingo. That doesn't mean you have it. I have a count here for people that actually have bingo. So, number 69, which is... Oh, 69. Thank you. I should be able to divide by...
bingo, and weirdly, that's not a joke.
Okay. 69.
There, you draw. So 58 is G. G58.
Correct.
This is going slower than... No, there's only 4 numbers for the line.
It's okay.
All right, 12, which would be B.
This is why they don't let me live code anymore.
This wasn't even live.
A12. A12. My laptop is noisy,
A12,
folks.
A12.
B, sorry, I keep starting A, B, C, D, E. No, it's B12, of course. Yeah, that is my mistake.
Yeah, I just repeated that. I didn't even question it.
And now you know how we got to this off-by-1 error. Okay. I clicked the button. We're waiting for the UI to update.
All right, so 38 would be N.
Yeah.
N.
The third column.
N38. Oh, somebody, at least one person has 4, so.
3.
No, there's a little red sliver
who
there.
has 4? Is that anyone here?
Oh, somebody on the live stream.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
no, I see a hand.
Yeah, okay, cool. Oh, well, I almost clicked start new game. That would not be ideal. Oh, you have a lot of cards. So okay.
47, is it G again? No.
N. No, G.
G, yeah, it's G.
G47.
Why do I listen to you? G47.
I like the delay, by the way. It's like we're spinning the bingo wheel. Right?
Yes, that was on purpose. We built that in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, G47. Okay, next number. I think I can see it faster in the database. Yeah.
51, 50. No, that's G. Yeah, that's G.
again,
That's G.
51. We should have built in some modulo operation, right? Okay, 51, G51. Still waiting for that. I don't think a lot of them is happening. Keep in mind, not every time you check, you get a higher score because, but okay. So we get 50.
Okay, so that's G50.
G50.
Yes.
G50. Remember to check all 3 cards. We'll get there, people. We'll
Or
get
more, if that's the case.
there. By the way, by now I assume somebody has tried to claim bingo and doesn't have it. Like, did you see the meme yet? Okay.
Yes.
You will have to. You have to
Correct.
restart. No, everything's still
No.
correct when you do that.
No. When you claim it, it just puts a timer on when then you can claim it next.
Yeah, I challenge you to try to hack the timer. We also enforce that on the security rules. Why wouldn't you implement a rate limit? 53.
Wow, G53 again. G is on fire.
It is. You want for G53. We can slowly see the chart move to the right. I swear, when I tried this, it was an animated chart.
Oh, I keep laughing into this.
Okay, next number is 24.
24. I-24.
I-24. I-24. Let me know if you're, like, I assume when you look up that you've checked all your cards. Like, I see more people having 4, by the way, now. Okay. Next number is going to be 56.
Which is G again, I believe. G56. Yeah, because...
Yeah. Yeah, we're a lot of G today. G56. We'll get there, people. We'll get there. Actually, we have about 12. It should take about between 15 and 20.
Yeah, somebody
I
did get it.
see
Okay,
that.
don't
That is awesome. A bit
don't
louder. And I have one there. By the way,
don't yeah, explain that part.
I do want you to yell it. Awesome. The order of yelling didn't matter. The order when you clicked the button did. Just so you know, we recorded that. Okay. Now, whatever you do, don't refresh your screen, please. Because I need to check whether you really have bingo. We're going to keep playing with a few more people because I want at least 3 winners. But I heard 2 local, which is great. Thank you. Because I can't hear the remote people. And remember, I don't know who you are. So I don't know how many of the winners are local. So if you have bingo and claim it, don't just sit there quietly, but yell out. We're going to keep going. I love that, by the way.
Oh, there's only 2 winners. They're both here.
What was that? Yeah, there's only 2 winners. Yeah, I know.
They're both
Yeah,
local.
yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so code is still running. Wow. 57. No, 36. Sorry, 57 was the previous one. 36 is an N. N36. N36. I don't see new winners, but keep in mind you should still be stamping it because otherwise you'll never know. Oh, we have 3 winners. We do. That is awesome. I love that. Congratulations. Okay, keep your screen up. Keep your screen up. I'm going to do a special thing here. I'm going to click this. I'm so scared that stuff now crashes. Okay, I'm going to send you each a message that I'm not going to show on this screen because that would be stupid for a secret message. So I'm going to send you a secret message. You tell me when you got like something to show. Perfect. Okay, can you take a screenshot of that? Thank you. We're going to check it later. Don't worry. Okay, like that's all good. I think nobody on the live stream got bingo, which is, I'm really sorry about that. We can do another round because we have a coffee break after that. If you want to stay around, that's totally fine. We have a few more plushies to give away, but not enough to do it without playing a game. And if you don't, then I think we're done, which means that I need to say thank you.
That was really cool. That all worked out.
26, anyone? I just want more winners.
Less people with 1 card than with 4, and the person with 1 card only.
Oh, okay, got. I have no idea what happens on both of these. We clearly need to do some more load testing. Firebase works great. My app, not always. Okay. Anyone want to stay for another game? Yeah. All right, you get to play another game.
All right, see you later, I guess. All right, this is, everyone that won, please take a screenshot because when I start a new game, you won't be able to see it anymore. All right, here we go. This is another moment of truth.
Oh, no, that works. Who was at, who joined FlutterVikings in February? Yay! Okay.
I just want to, we tried.
Okay. So I probably should have included cloud functions in the demo, right? Like this is where you use cloud functions so that your Android app does not run out of memory when this happens. Thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you for being a sport about this.
I think the number of bingo enthusiasts like grew by 1,000.